Welcome back everyone. In today's video I'm flying out the Xp-55 Ascender, which sits at 4.3 BR in the American tech tree as a premium. So I got this thing during the October Golden Eagle sales, and wow am I glad that I picked this thing up. This plane is a monster at 4.3, and I would argue that this is borderline overpowered. The main thing that makes it this way is the insanely good MER, or maneuvering energy retention. The Xp-55 loses basically no speed in a flat turn, nearly beating the Talon 52H in this metric, which is already a joke by itself. Combine this with good all-around performance and an elevator that literally doesn't compress, the Xp-55 traveling at high speeds turns into a UFO that is nearly impossible to counter. At certain speeds, which is around 600 to 700 kilometers an hour, give or take, this plane can pull upwards of 12 and even 13 Gs, and with its great MER, it can actually maintain these high speeds for longer periods of time than any other aircraft at 4.3 when it's turning. I find this plane to be most similar to the TIE-H, however, the difference is that the Xp-55 does best at high speeds, where the TIE-H does best at low speeds. This plane also has a really good armament, which consists of 2 A&M2 cannons and 2 50 cals, which is the same as the Xp-50. However, instead of having 60 rounds per cannon like the Xp-50, the Xp-55 has 200 rounds per cannon, which makes for some pretty crazy games. The Xp-55's climb, although it's slightly above average, isn't really anything special, but there are some disadvantages that I need to talk about though, and the first thing is going to be its top speed. The Xp-55 is not very fast, only going about 520 kilometers an hour on the deck, which means that you are going to be caught by quite a bit of things if given the time, around 4.3 BR, and I would say your biggest threat in this plane is a Yak 3, which already doesn't belong at 4.3, but they are faster than you, and they also do climb better than you. They can keep up in a turn fight, and they also have good enough MER to hang in a rate fight with you for a while, but yeah, Yak 3s are probably the most dangerous plane that you can face at this BR. Second, the Xp-55, because of its unconventional shape, has weird handling. The Xp-55 does not perform very well at low speeds because there isn't enough airflow for its swept wing shape, and at high speeds the rudder and roll compress pretty badly, making aiming quite challenging. And lastly, the Xp-55 is fragile, and it also doesn't take damage well. Getting an orange wing feels like a crit when you're maneuvering, like it feels like a black wing root, and oftentimes a single 20mm shell will be the end of you, so try your best to avoid being tagged. The best way to fly the Xp-55 is to start with enemies at the top and then slowly work your way down, because when you're diving with the Xp-55, it picks up speed, and since it has such good MER, it keeps it. And this kind of, in a way, creates like a snowball effect for your plane's performance. The faster you are, the better you are, and the further that you can work your way down, the faster you will be. So, in conclusion, the Xp-55 is an awesome aircraft that is definitely unconventional, but it's very good at its specific playstyle. If you can stay fast and use this plane's energy retention and performance at high speeds effectively, the Xp-55 will definitely become one of your favorite planes at rank 3. Starting off, I have some examples of dogfights and energy traps, and then later we'll get into some full matches. The last match of this video is a 9-kill game, by the way. I hope you guys enjoy. Also, if you guys haven't already, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It's free and it helps my channel out, and I'd really appreciate it if you did so. So, thank you guys. Without further ado, let's hop into it. So starting off, we have an energy trap against the Pyramirski, and I did just come out of a dive. I'm going like 640, so I'm much faster than him, and I'm also above him. However, I came out of a dive to kind of get close to him and entice him to pitch up for me after like this. So eventually he is going to stall out, and all I have to focus on is just spiraling up and dodging his shots, because eventually he is going to just stall below me. He's going to have no nose authority, and that time is now. He's completely just presented perfect picture frame, and he's going to go down. And that's a thing that you can kind of do with the Xp-55. Vertical spirals work really well with this thing, because although it might not have the best climb rate, it's like pretty average, I'd say. the energy retention is what really puts it over the board. Like, the Xp-55, when you go vertical into a spiral like that, it loses less speed than a lot of like really good climbing planes like the PM1, because the MER, like the maneuver and energy retention, just completely shines when you're doing energy traps like that. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to show you guys just to highlight it. And you can do that with basically any plane as long as you're either on their altitude or above them. Anyways, this next example is going to be against the Wyvern, and it's just kind of to show you that you can catch much faster planes if you kind of play it right and if you have better maneuver and energy retention, because I'm going to keep a lot more speed than this Wyvern does in turns, and me and the Wyvern right now are basically polar opposites. He has probably the worst maneuver and energy retention in the entire game, whereas, at least for props, whereas I have some of the best. And basically, I'm just going to kind of force him to turn, and as you can see, it's working. I'm kind of just turning in front of his nose. However, I'm going so fast, and I can turn so hard at these speeds. As you can see, I'm pulling 9, and I'm about to pull 10 Gs, that it's impossible for him to get a shot when he's going that slow, and it's just going to be compounded by the fact that he has such bad energy retention that he can't gain any of that speed back quick enough to try and get away from me. Even though he's faster than me by over 100 kilometers an hour on the deck, he just isn't quick enough, if that makes sense. He can't hold his energy well enough to be able to get away from me if he even turns a bit. This next example is a dogfight with the 109 G14. I do start a bit above him, but point is, I can just kind of easily turn with him, and this is, the Xp-55 is the bane of 109s at this tier, because you turn better than them, and you can kind of keep up with them in the climb almost because of your energy retention. This plane also has pretty good linear energy retention, but as soon as the 109s start a spiral, if they try and spiral energy trap you, it's over for them, because your plane just maintains so much energy in those upward spirals that 109s will easily be caught off guard, and they really just can't do anything to you. This next example is another dogfight. However, this 109 starts basically at the same amount of energy, and as you can already see, I'm going faster than him, but in this situation, it is kind of a problem because he instantly gets my 6 because he's going slower than me, and that's because he can kind of turn inside of my loop. So I'm going to have to like kind of fix this, and what I'm trying to do is, if this makes sense, I'm trying to put my nose behind him, and I just dodged that pass because I just kind of like corrected my adjustment to make his nose go over me instead of through me. And yeah, I'm putting my nose behind him, if that makes sense, to try and kind of circle behind him. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm trying to also get slower at the same time, and as you can see, the Xp-55 does kind of have like weird controls at this speed, just because of how it's shaped. It's a very unconventional looking aircraft, but as you can see, it easily beats 109s in turn fights at basically all speeds, and it's just easy like that. I don't know. And Spitfires in this next example, Spitfires literally have no chance against you. Their energy retention is so much worse than you, and you're also slightly faster than them, I believe. This is an F Mark 9, an Israeli F Mark 9, and I did start above him, but the amount of easiness I'm going to have maintaining energy over this guy is like a walk in the park. Like, I'm just going to, no matter how many passes it takes, because I am making very high speed passes, and he's also dodging really well, so it's going to be really hard for me to get a clean shot with my compression, with like my roll and my rudder. But all I have to do is just keep extending up like this, and I also could have thrown in a bit of spiraling upwards here because the Spitfire literally can't follow that. But yeah, he doesn't really have a chance anyways, and all I have to do is just keep extending vertically away from him. And I could do this if I started on basically the same energy level as a Spitfire, and they still wouldn't have a chance. I would just extend a bit more vertically. And although they do have better climb rate on paper, if you just kind of shallow climb, get a nice little hit on his tail there, but it's not really going to do much. So I'm just going to extend away, and he loses so much more energy in those turns. But what was I saying? Even though they climb better than you on paper, that's in like a very low speed climb. You can put this thing in like a 10 or 12 degree climb at like 310 IAS, and you will be able to outclimb Spitfires in a lot of slow aircraft. Even though you are slow yourself, your climb rate's actually pretty good at high speed, because this thing is pretty aerodynamic, I'd say. It has swept wings, pretty low drag for its kind of BR. Yeah, it's very aerodynamic, so I'm just going to keep kind of making passes in the Spitfire, and again, it is hard because he's dodging very well, and I do have quite a bit of compression going on. But as you're going to see, there's just no chance on earth he's ever going to catch me if I just keep doing it like this. And eventually, I'm going pretty slow, however, he's going a lot slower too, since the fight started. And since I'm going slower, I'm going to have an easier time aiming, and since he's going slower, he's going to have a harder time dodging. And eventually, that's just going to lead to me taking his wing off, and he finally goes down. Good fight to that guy. He played it very well, but unfortunately, you can't really do much to an Xp-55 in that situation. Anyways, we're going to move on to the first full game. This is an ace game, and I start off by head-onning the entire enemy team, which was a very poor choice. Looking back on this footage, it was a very poor choice because there's Yak 3Ps, there's Typhoons, all sorts of 20 mils facing my way, and if you get hit by a single 20 mil in this plane, it's pretty much over for you, because this plane just doesn't take damage well. It's I don't know if it's made out of wood or not. I don't think it is. It looks like metal airframe, but it just doesn't take damage well, and it's very fragile. The wings are very skinny, so I've been I think I've died 3 times to enemies in this thing, and every single time it was my wing getting one shot off by a 20 mil. So that's just my experience, but I feel like that's also going to be other people's experiences. I just don't have enough deaths in this thing. That's kind of a flex, but I don't have enough deaths in this thing to say for sure. Anyways, I am going to kind of dogfight this Yak 3 here, and my main priority there, because I didn't really know if he turned better than me at this time, was to make him rip. And as you can see, he's going to really start compressing and getting really close to his red line at like 650. However, I can just like thrive at that speed. Like I can pull 12, 13 Gs at that speed. I'm perfectly fine operating there, and his plane basically just turns into a torpedo. He loses both of his wingtips and is rendered completely immobile, and that's a thing that you can do to counter Yak 3s, but you have to have altitude to do it. So after killing that Yak 3 by basically maneuver killing him, I go for this LA7, who I actually didn't really see until he started shooting at me through the clouds. Luckily, he didn't really have enough energy, and all I had to do was just spiral up above his guns, and I maintain so much more energy than him, and he was also lower than me, that he basically had no chance unless he hit a lucky shot. So the LA7 goes down. Focke-Wulf 190 is in front of me farming AI, completely oblivious, so I'm just going to take my time, conserve ammo. He goes down, and I almost get shot by him in the flat spin. We're not going to talk about it, but now I see a Yak 3, and he is the only enemy that I see in this area. I do have to be careful because it is a Thunderclouds map. I want to take a head-on with the Yak 3 just to kind of entice him to, since he has the advantage. If he does take that with me, it's more risky for him. And I'm now going to start a dogfight. And yeah, you can keep up with Yak 3s in a turn fight for a bit. A26 makes a pass on him. But yeah, Yak 3s are definitely dangerous to you. I would say they're most dangerous, like I said in the intro. And unfortunately, my poor roll rate is going to get me hit here, and my engine is going to be slightly damaged. However, I'm still going to have a couple of turns of energy left in me to be able to maybe take him out. And my plane, if I do drop my flaps all the way down, I am going to have a slightly better turn rate than him. However, the second, like, whoever comes out of the top of the loop is going to have the advantage as a shot. Luckily, I get it here, and I finally get a hit. And yeah, the way that works is when you're going up like that at the top of the loop, you're going to be slower, and that kind of what is it? That closes the circle radius that you have, and it makes it smaller. The circle radius that you have in that fight is going to be smaller, so you're basically going to cut inside of the enemy's turn. The enemy that's going down, they're going to have a bigger turning radius. You're going to have a smaller turning radius because you're going up and losing speed, and you're going to be able to get a shot. However, if you miss that shot and you're going to be at the bottom of the loop, they're going to get a shot because now they're slower, and they're getting slower, you're getting faster. And I don't know if I explained that very well, but hopefully you guys get the gist. As long as you're at the top of the loop and you guys are on equal energy, kind of in that little scissor fight, then the top of the loop usually is going to get the first shot. Anyways, we're going to move on to a, I believe this is a 7-kill game, and I killed the Spitfire pretty easily there. I'll go after the Typhoon. I think he was also lit on fire earlier, so I'm just going to take a couple shots at him and just extend back up, because there are also quite a few enemies left in the area. I now go for this Yak 3, take a head-on with him. I only get an oil leak, and I think I actually took his wingtip off there. This is one of the older games that I played, so I'm not completely caught up on this, but yeah, the Yak 3 is pretty damaged, so I can kind of ignore him for now, look for other targets. This Spitfire pitches straight up into me. I don't really know what his plan was there, but I can now go for this LA7. Unfortunately, my plane is not a 0, although it does pull really, really hard at high speed. It doesn't pull that hard, and so I'm not going to be able to get a shot on the LA7 instantly. However, all I really need to do is loop back up, take a couple of shots, because he just doesn't have the energy to follow me, and he was also occupied by a teammate, and that LA7 is going to go down. So that's basically all of the enemies in the immediate vicinity in that kind of furball cleared out. The enemies that were stragglers either left the furball or went to RTB, and so I'm just going to go for this 109 because he is the closest, and yeah, he's the quickest guy that I can kill in this situation. So yeah, I'm just going to extend away, and this thing is actually pretty fast out of a dive. It's not very fast when you actually have to accelerate to your top speed without a dive. However, again, it keeps its speed well. It has very good maneuvering energy retention, but it also has good linear energy retention, vertical energy retention. This plane just holds its speed very well, and because it holds its speed very well, you can do a lot of pretty nasty things with this plane, and that's what I love about it, because you can actually catch people off guard too, because this thing is a premium. Most people buy the Xp-50 over it, and so you're not going to see a lot of these around. The only time I really see these around was actually after the pack sales and after the GE sales. But yeah, you don't really see these that often, so a lot of people who are kind of newer or less experienced in ARB won't really know how to fight these things, and even I don't really know how to fight these things until I started flying it myself. I didn't really know how to fight these things, and I got caught off guard quite a few times. I'm gonna be honest. I've been killed by Xp-55s quite a few times, not really knowing how they caught up to me, but that's just because instead of losing speed, they like basically gained it in a flat turn, and I had no idea how. But yeah, this thing's, besides the ramble that I just went on, this thing has excellent energy retention, and your main priority is to use that. Anyways, after killing a couple more people, getting an assist on that dodo who I think had his wing taken off, I'm going to go for the 2 stragglers that are left on the airfield. This Typhoon actually just took off, and he had enough energy to head on me, so I don't really want to get killed by a guy who was just taken off. He has 420s, and it's just not really worth full committing to that head-on, because I can just easily loop back over, take a couple of shots at him, and he's going to go down. And this Dora doesn't J out in time, so I'm going to get him too, and that's going to be 7. There's one guy left. I have 24 rounds of cannon, and yeah, this plane has a very nice ammo load. It's very nice to have 200 rounds per gun of A&M2, and I also really like how they're nose-mounted, because I have an easier time aiming nose-mounted guns, and yeah, this armament's great. Anyways, I merge with the Focke-Wulf 190 F8, and I think he was previously damaged by the J2M that he was fighting before I got there, so I'm going to win this duel pretty easily. However, just before I kill him, he J's out, and I'm not going to get my 8th. A bit salty, and it turns out it was actually a guy that I knew. It was a guy that I knew, and I don't know, maybe he just J'd out as a joke like that, but it is what it is. He's actually a YouTuber. I'm not going to tell you who. He wanted to keep his identity a secret, but yeah, he's an interesting guy. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next full match. This is another 7-kill game, and this was a carry game. So I'm first going to go for this Yak 9P. He was not paying attention. He goes down, and I'm now going to just kind of send it for this Yak 3. Unfortunately, I think this was like my 5th game in this thing, 4th, 5th game, and yeah, I don't really know how to controls whiff. It's also a bit of a skill issue. I just ended up whiffing. But yeah, I'm not going to kill him, and there was a couple of guys that were higher than me, so I ended up cutting this out, but I think I left like 2 minutes out where I just extended away and climbed. Anyways, we're now back to diving on a Yak 3P. Unfortunately, I missed that shot. However, I have plenty of energy over him to kind of safely loop over and just put myself back on a 6 o'clock. Unfortunately, to my left, there are 2 guys coming in, and I want to take care of this guy as quickly as possible, because if he's alive by the time those 2 other guys get there, it's going to be a problem. And unfortunately, this Yak 3P seems to know that I have really, really bad rudder compression, or roll compression at this speed, so I'm not going to be able to hit him. And I actually almost get myself reversed here. However, I'm going, I was going like faster than his rip speed anyways, so he has a very, very small window to be able to shoot me. So I'm going to get away from the Yak 3P. However, the I-185 that is directly behind me is just immediately going to catch me, given how much faster he is than me and how much more altitude he has than me. And So yeah, I'm going to have to kind of set up a reversal. Luckily, at high speeds, I have much better control than him. I go up over his guns, and since I retain so much energy, I'm going to be able to just kind of turn in front of him, and I'm going to be able to have a pretty large window for a shot here. Unfortunately, I think I hit my machine gun selector key, and I missed the first burst. Luckily, I managed to kind of set my cannons back, and or at least like select all of my guns, and I get a pretty nice burst into him. He goes down, and now I have to reverse a P-47. I probably could have turned under him earlier here. However, I just didn't. I wanted to be sure that I was able to dodge him, just to kind of pick up a bit of speed. And if he goes for this shot, he's going to pancake. Luckily, he does. He's going way too fast to pull up, and of course, he pancakes. Nice little maneuver kill there. And we are now going to move on to. I think this was like 5 or 6 minutes skipped forward. There was a 109G who took off a couple of minutes ago. I ended up just kind of split S-ing down towards him. And yeah, at this, I can actually keep my speed pretty well, although I'm going quite a bit above my top speed. I am going to end up catching him because I believe that is a G2. If I can see from here, yeah, G2s are very, very slow on the deck. He wasn't dodging properly there. He gets a pilot snipe there with 20 mil. And now I have to worry about a T-18 who's above me, because T-18s are actually pretty scary if you're not paying attention, because that one specifically has two 20 mils and a 57 millimeter. And yeah, the T-18 for a twin-engine bomber is actually pretty lightweight. So yeah, I just want to be careful dodging him. And the Yak-3 that I was shooting at earlier this game, he lands, takes off, repairs, all that, and he's now coming towards me. So the T-18 is going to run away from me, and my main priority now switches over to the Yak-3P, because it's just a more dangerous fighter that I don't really know how it performs against me, because this was one of my like 4th or 5th games. So I'm going to just force a head-on because I need him dead. I only shoot my 20s. Luckily, I get severe damage. His wing falls off. T-18 comes back in for more. However, the Yak-3P, I don't really have to worry about him anymore because his wing's gone. So I'm just going to pitch up into the T-18 for a head-on, because I don't really know if he expected this. Luckily, I get a nice little pilot snipe. The Yak-3 goes down at the same time, and I'm going to get a nice little 2K there. This is me flying towards the enemy airfield now. I go head-on again with the T-18. That was a bit, definitely a bit too close there, because I was kind of slow going into that head-on. However, the second I get past that head-on, there's not really much he can do. He can try and run from me. However, I believe I was going faster than him anyways. I'm going to go below him because he has a gunner, a single gunner on top of his plane. However, he doesn't have a gunner below his plane, so I'm pretty much safe down here unless he drops bombs. I believe I hit one of his engines. Yeah, one of his engines is out, so he basically has no chance of outrunning me now. Want to dodge that back gunner. Make sure that I don't get hit, because it is a pretty easy kill until it's not, if that makes sense, because you might get a bit less cautious, you might get greedy, and you might not be paying full attention, paying as much attention as you need to a bomber. And yeah, that's where they'll catch you off guard. That's where they'll one-shot your engine or whatever. As you can see, he actually drops his bombs there, so it's good that I didn't turn back in. Until now, he goes down, and I'm now going to look at the last guy on the enemy team, which is a 109. And after a bit, he actually comes off the airfield to kind of merge with me, and I load my stealth rounds. I don't have any machine guns left. I take a couple shots, and luckily I get a nice little severe damage on his wingtip, and he goes down. Pretty intense game. Glad I was able to come out on top of that. And yeah, that's GG's. Anyways, we're going to move on to the last game of the video. This is a 9-kill game, and we're first going to start out with a head-on against a Spitfire, or at least a merge. He actually doesn't take the head-on, so yeah, he dodges it pretty well. Unfortunately, I'm not able to pull enough lead there because I'm just gonna stay skill issue because I didn't react quick enough. However, I can just kind of turn away from him, and I'm turning more and more instead of just going straight, because the more I turn and the more he's gonna turn, and the more he turns, he loses more energy than me in a turn. If that makes sense, that doesn't make much sense. But basically, I retain more energy than him in a turn. And so I decided to like do more than like a 90-degree turn, if that made sense. And as you can see, he's now a kilometer below me. And yeah, that basically just kind of ensures that I have a nice big energy advantage over him. So I can now come in over the top of him. He's actually getting shot up by my teammate. And yeah, he's not going to be paying his full attention to me. So I just want to kind of predict where he's flying. Unfortunately, I'm going about that speed where my rudder and roll starts to compress, so it's going to be a pretty tough shot. However, luckily I end up getting a close range shot right into his engine, and he goes down. I'm now going to merge with the LA7. I go head on because I'm going fast enough to be able to dodge effectively. He takes it, however, he kind of full committed to it. Unfortunately, my rounds didn't hit, and I can now go for the 185. He's not really paying attention, TikTok warrior, I guess. But yeah, he gives me a pretty easy kill, and I can now just kind of make my way down towards the lower enemies. So yeah, I'm just fast forwarding this part because nothing really happened here. I was just kind of flying over the enemy team, looking for the proper target to choose, and I was choosing the A6M3 because, yeah, that Sterling's basically useless. I don't really need to go for him right now. Fighters are more of a threat than a bomber is, and I want this A6M3 gun because he's a very annoying plane to deal with because he turns so well, and he's also the highest enemy in my area. So he was actually going really fast in that dive, and I wasn't really confident that I could be able to hit him like with a high chance. So I'm just gonna kind of pitch up, and he actually pitches up after me, so I want to kind of turn over him and give him the illusion that he's actually catching me in this energy trap. However, he's basically stalled out right now, and I'm going 380, and I'm completely holding my speed because of my MER. I loop back over, he stalls out perfectly in my guns, and he's gonna go down. And that was the thumbnail of the video if you guys were wondering. But yeah, after taking the A6M3 out, I'm going to extend towards the rest of the enemies in the middle of the map. The Spitfire seems to be wanting to kind of pitch up for me like this, and he's going to be the main priority. And all of these guys that are below me, I can just kind of push them down because they have to climb to get up to me, and since I hold my speed so well, these guys just aren't really going to be able to do anything unless like one of them maybe is focusing me and gets out of my vision for like a minute. But yeah, as long as I can keep an eye on all of them and force them all down, then they can't really do anything to me. So yeah, the Spitfire gets pushed down. The LA7 is climbing up. However, my teammate Tofu is in the background, and he's going to kind of help me maybe distract these guys. I'm going to go for the J2M. Tofu also has a YouTube channel if you guys are wondering. I'll link it in the description. But yeah, I go for the J2M because he's also a pretty annoying plane to deal with. He climbs really well, and he turns quite a bit better than me. So I want to go for him, get him out of the match real quick. And unfortunately, I'm not able to get sufficient enough damage. And luckily, I was able to go for him because Tofu actually baited the other two guys kind of away from me for a bit. But now, after I loop back over, the Spitfire and the LA7 are both going to come towards me now. So I'm just going to kind of dive in towards them a bit aggressively, and I'm going to wait until the LA7 is about to fire to dodge. And the LA7 is basically stalled out right now. So I can just kind of climb over him, and I'm more worried about the Spitfire here than I am the LA7 because the LA7 doesn't have enough energy to pitch up after me in this stall. And yeah, the Spitfire also doesn't, so instead of going for him here now though, that would put me actually directly in the LA7's gun sight because he's at the top of his loop going down. And yeah, nobody really wants an LA7 on their 6 like that, so I'm just going to loop back over, kind of take my time. LA7 goes down now, and that gives me a bit of room to go for this J2M again. Make another pass on him. He's actually really slow, and he's now so crippled that barrage of bullets actually sends him into a flat spin. I'm just going to climb away from the Spitfire now, who still is lacking any energy to be able to catch me, and I'm going to turn kind of perpendicular towards him. It looks like he's catching me, however, he's only getting closer because I'm flying kind of towards him. And as you can see, as soon as he gets behind me, he's much slower than me, and as soon as he puts his nose up, he's basically stalled out, so I'm free to just kind of loop back over. He gives me a 6. He can't really do anything yet, and he's too slow to really be able to fight back here. Although he is fast enough for a dodge, and I'm going a bit too fast to aim properly, so I don't really get sufficient enough damage. I don't know what was going on with my guns there. Maybe enough 20s just didn't hit. But yeah, he's crippled right now, and I'm going to go help Tofu with the LA7 because the Dodo does not turn better than the LA7. I get a full broadside at close range, set him on fire, and LA7s are pretty prone to fires, it seems. Anytime they get hit with anything incendiary, they just get light ablaze. I take a head-on with the Spitfire, and looking back at this was not the smartest choice. I should definitely not have taken that because he was crippled, and I had way more energy over him. But yeah, luckily I survived the head-on. Spitfire is basically stalled out doing a flat turn, and there's not really much he can do because, again, I just have so much more energy. All it's going to take is a couple of taps from 20. I take him out, and I'm now going to help my teammate with the Key 100. So yeah, just extending towards him right now. And I have so much more speed in this out of this dive that I can just kind of pitch up into him. He's actually not really paying attention to me, so he's just going to give me a nice little shot. I one-shot his wing off. That's going to be 7 kills, and that is going to be an RTB. And so after our RTB, there is an LA7 above me, and I'm not really worried here. And I have enough altitude, I have enough speed right now, that I just feel confident in giving him my 6 o'clock. And there's not really much you can do, because the second I start diving, I can go 600 and pull like 10 or 11 Gs into him. And since he's going to catch me going 600, he's going to be at a pretty high risk of redlining and possibly ripping his wings, because LA7s don't really have the best rip speed. They like go, I think, 710, and for some reason he turns back into me here. And yeah, LA7s also don't have the best maneuvering energy retention, and I do, so I can actually just pitch into him. And before I actually killed him, you could see I was barely going any slower than him. So yeah, that's going to be 8 kills. I almost crashed into my teammate. I don't know what he was doing flying there. But yeah, just going to kind of skip forward to the 9th kill here. I actually get my oil one-shot by him, the Sterling. And that's another reason why I don't go for bombers, because you go for them during the middle of the game while there's still enemy fighters left to kill, and you get an oil leak, then you're basically screwed for the rest of the game. But the last guy on the airfield unfortunately was camping, and yeah, for the last 5 minutes he actually ended up letting the tickets run out, so I wasn't able to get 10. And yeah, that's going to be the end of the match, but that's also going to be the end of the video. Things happen like that, but you just got to roll with them. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Subscribe, by the way. Peace out.